So we'll do our weekly agenda. Cormac, I moved yours up to the top.
Ooh, I feel so fancy. Thank you.
Do you want to kind of
Oh,
share your
yeah.
thoughts?
I will verbalize. Yeah, so I was just wondering, we have this strategic marketing offsite this week. And I was looking at the agenda and I dropped a comment in there to Alita's point, um, just that we should involve product, I think, in that discussion about Azure boards. But yeah, I was just wondering if there's anything we should prep to bring to it so we can hit the ground running.
And
Mine,
I noticed that we had a 1 to 3 year portfolio marketing strategy conversation planned. And I thought, well, we could read our 3 year GitLab strategy because that is something relatively fresh. But then I see a counterpoint. William?
so it should be no prep. There's no ask like go and do this and show up ready with thing X. It's we're gonna have some fun time and we're gonna have some think about different stuff time. And so if there is a conversation you would like to have together as portfolio marketing, did I share with this group that we're now portfolio marketing?
Oh, yeah.
Although I don't know what call that was, so I don't know if everyone was on
So
it.
that was the Todd call.
Todd, yeah,
Last
on,
week.
on our last portfolio marketing, all portfolio marketing call,
That's right.
we officially changed the name to portfolio marketing. So if there is anything that you would like to chat about in longer term format, please do propose that. Ty and I were kind of like on one planning track, and then Todd was like, hey, add all your ideas to the doc. So I think Todd may have some ideas, and I'm not necessarily clued into those, but it sounds like there's no prep, and there's just like, if there's something you want to discuss as all portfolio marketing, like add that to the doc. And so it looks like Alita, you added something about Azure boards. So we may or may not discuss that, but if there's something that you wanted to discuss, we will have like a 2-hour block. I have a feeling like if we do multi-topics, we'll fill that up quickly. So my proposal.
Yeah, we don't have to talk about it. I just added it just so everyone is aware of kind of what's going on with that, but we don't have to talk about it.
Well, so my request then would be, if you want the team to be aware of it, please add it to the portfolio marketing team agenda so that we do all see it, because I don't know if everyone looks at that doc. But if you want to specifically say during our offsite where we have like a 2-hour block of like extended discussion all together, and you want to discuss that thing, then add it to that doc, if that makes sense. And so no prep, but if there's stuff that you did want to discuss, one of the proposals is, we do some game storming, if y'all have heard of that, on strategy. So any other questions on just the offsite? Cool. Then Focus Fridays are permanent. That is very exciting. And
So this is something that like it's for us, or is this like
so company wide, you should make every effort to not schedule meetings on Fridays. Fridays should be a catch-up day where you work asynchronously, and so this is a nod towards having a bias for async, putting fewer, like we should just always be working like this. We should always think like, how can I put fewer meetings on the calendar? How can I have async workflows? And it's just the most inclusive. Like, we're a global company. Everybody's in different time zones across all the teams that we're on. And the most inclusive way to work is asynchronously. Of course, sometimes we need meetings like the one we're on right now, but we should keep those to an absolute minimum. And so in order to do that more, consider Fridays basically no meeting day. Don't schedule meetings on Fridays. And this is a company-wide guidance. Doesn't mean you can't have a meeting on Friday, but I find that Fridays are my days to catch up, except for last Friday where I had a big plan of catch up, and then like 5 things dropped on my plate at the last minute, but that's okay. Brian was involved in one of them. I'm trying to think
Yeah.
of anyone else on the calls. Cool. Q2 goals. So ideally, what I wanted to do was welcome to Q2. We're now officially in Q2. And this is the Q2 goals issue, which I don't think there's anything confidential in here. And so I structured this around a little bit. And I want to chat about these ones a little bit more in depth. But ideally, in the next 2 months, we'll go to execute on this. And then as we start getting towards Q3, or even now, if there's anything big that didn't fit on this, let's talk about it as a Q3 goal. And so ideally, when we start Q3, we would have an idea of the work that we have planned. And I want to do this for several reasons. Ideally, if we know what our priorities are, that way when last minute stuff comes on the plate, we can say, okay, well, if you want me to do X, this is on our plate. What do you want us to drop to make room for that? So that we can have that negotiation. I don't know that this is one way to kind of show all these things that we're doing. The other one is, a common area of struggle, I think both for our team and for other teams, I think it's felt both ways, is in the ways that we work cross-functionally, trying to negotiate that work. And so in the past, sometimes it's come in ad hoc or last minute. And so you say, okay, I'm working on this thing, but all of a sudden this analyst report that if I would have known about it a month ago, I would have planned for it. But now that it dropped on my plate, I have to shove other stuff off the plate, or this field marketing event. So the goal is to try to avoid that, shove off the plate and plan for this stuff. So I asked the field marketing team to tell us all the events that they need. And they did. Has anybody looked at this yet?
It was a few days ago, I think, but there were three big events was what it really boiled down to, right?
So, and the other thing I'll mention before because maybe you'll answer it or not, but if I ask it first, you will. Which is just that it was a little hard to tell which ones were already taken. And each of them that I clicked into, ultimately, I found they were taken, even after reading through the thread and that kind of thing. So I wondered if we could assert a label, or is there a label that I'm just missing? Is there some way they indicate we've already got the PMM for this?
So that is a good question. So honestly, I asked for these in a spreadsheet, and my thought is that field marketing would have asked us for 20 events, but in reality, it was only 10. And so among a team of 6 people, including myself, so 5 PMMs and me, that would serve as speakers and moderators for these events. And Alita, if this is something of interest to you, we could also include you in the loop and get you kind of doing this kind of thing. But that feels kind of reasonable. That's less than 2 each for the quarter. Does that seem like a reasonable amount of requests from field? I thought it was much higher than that.
I think we've done much higher than that, at least in the last quarters. I would say I've done at least 4 to 5.
Yeah, same.
In the last quarter.
Yeah, I feel the same way too. But so I thought this was going to be a lot longer list.
Is there an allowance for some number of them that will still pop up?
I was going to say, I'm guessing there are ones that they may not have thought through.
My explicit ask is can you tell us everything you need for the quarter? And is that reasonable? If it's not reasonable, then let me know. But is this a reasonable ask? And I was assured, yes, this is a completely reasonable ask. So to your point, maybe everything's not on here, but at least we have a framework. So if something else comes on this quarter and it's not on this list now, we have some kind of a framework to say we either can or can't support that. So To Brian's point, I am wondering if there is like a way to sort by like a signee. So I can think of two ways to do this, Brian. One, we could like port all of these into a spreadsheet so we could look at them and say, okay, well, there's 10 of them, but 7 of them are security and they all want Cindy, right? Like that's not going to work, right? So I don't have a good way to sort these for now. That's kind of why I just wanted to chat about it as a team for ideas. I asked for them in a spreadsheet. They're like, no, we work out of issues. We want issues. I was like, issues is fine. We'll work with the issues. But to your point, Brian, this view doesn't help us. So any suggestions on how to like parse this?
We could
What would
just
be-
have a 2-state label. Got a PMM, don't got a PMM. Something like that.
Oh, I
Wasn't
never
that
mind.
SM request assigned? Wouldn't
Yeah,
that?
that's what I was thinking, but
Okay.
that is, are they each individual? Yeah, that would work.
Okay, so it could be like label
It's,
equals.
we have one, yeah.
Yeah,
S-
we've got it there. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I hate these labels, but hey, if it becomes helpful, SM request assigned. So let's see. Actually, it would be label. So it looks like 2 of them have that. So we would want label does not equal SM request assigned.
Yeah. Well, then as usual, it's label hygiene. So like if somewhere in the comments someone says, "Yep, I got it," but then the label doesn't flip, then it's still whatever.
I would
Maybe it wasn't a big enough concern to engineer a solution.
Yeah, I mean it would be.
Well, there's a May 5th event there, so hopefully that's assigned to someone.
Yeah, look at that. That's like tomorrow, right? So that's even.
Tacos and tequila.
Is there anybody
Oh,
assigned? Fern.
Fern has taken this one, and this one got moved actually. So yeah,
I think
one's in
this
the
is from last.
27th instead.
I think
of
it's from
4th.
last quarter, and it, or maybe it got moved to the 27th. So,
Yeah.
Oh, and I was thinking of Emily's comment on the issue there, where she mentioned that they need help on Google Next, KubeCon, and AWS.
so that's also on the list, and that's under corporate marketing.
Yeah.
So field marketing and corporate marketing are like they both run events, right? And so corporate marketing are large company-wide global events, things like KubeCon, Google,
That's
Next.
why it seems like there's more, because there are more. They're just categorized differently.
Yeah, so like big events like reInvent or KubeCon, those are corporate marketing. Field marketing will be like a regional event. And in non-COVID times, this could be an in-person event, but it usually would be for region. These days they're all virtual because of COVID. So that might be some of the reasons why we feel like we're doing. So let's chat about corporate marketing in a moment. I'm hesitant to prescribe the label because it's like just an extra step if there is a way, but if that becomes helpful, maybe like we can go through and try that out. So if you pick one up, maybe change the label to assigned. And since there's only 10, I'll try to go through these by the end of the day. I think my ask would be like, can you go through, maybe that I just need to do that. Maybe I just need to go through and see if they have assigned for field. So let's do that. Okay, so field. I'll do this today, and I should have done it for this meeting. See what's not assigned. If I ping in the Slack channel for folks to pick stuff up, does that kind of work? And if you see any that are like, oh, this is my topic, I can take this, then please do pick it up, comment,
And
add. Yeah.
And I only commented because everything I checked was ultimately assigned. Like somebody had picked it up, and there wasn't a way to see that. And it was like 30 or 40 minutes of reading, comment threads to go through the list of them. I was like, well, we probably all don't want to do that. So it felt like, oh, what's a better way?
You know,
but maybe the better way is you do it.
Yeah, and you
So
know
or
what?
one
Maybe-
person does it. Yeah,
Maybe I can make a board because you can put these onto a
Yeah.
board
that's a good. Idea.
and then you can have like columns for people. And so if it's not assigned to like somebody on this team, it'll be in like the not assigned column, right? Maybe. I don't know. Let me think on that. There's a reason why I didn't want issues, but if issues were easier to work with. Okay. So corporate marketing. This one's a bit more complex. So field marketing, I asked for the quarter. I was told these are all the ones for the quarter. Let's see how it goes. Corporate marketing has been a lot of back and forth, and so there's kind of two ways proposed to approach corporate marketing support. One would be we as a team ahead of the quarter assign a PMM to each corporate event and say, you're the PMM DRI for this corporate event. This is kind of what we have done historically. The other way would be for GTM teams to adopt events. And this is what Todd would like to see. So the idea is your entire GTM team, not just you, but the campaign manager, the content manager, like everyone on the team is responsible for that event and supporting that event. And so the way that you would think about it is we are a GTM team. And this is the case where I think I've shared, some of you and I have had this conversation where like the names of the GTM teams are increasingly become more meaningless. For example, like the CI/CD team. Are you really a CI/CD team? Probably not. So just think of because like, did you run a CI/CD sales play? Well, kinda. It's really a DevSecOps sales play. So, and then the point is, okay, if you're the CI/CD team and you pick up, let's say, KubeCon, are you going to only do CI/CD stuff for KubeCon? No, I would not expect that. I would expect you to like run the meaningful campaign for KubeCon that needs to be run, right? So I would just think of yourselves as we're a cross-functional team. We have a PMM and a content marketing manager and a campaign manager. And other folks too. I forget everyone who's on the core team. It's the TMMs and everybody, right? So the point is think of yourselves as a cross-functional team. And for the quarter, you have certain activities. So you're going to generate a sales play. You're going to support a certain number of corporate events. You're going to do something with campaigns. And hopefully we have enough time on this call to talk about campaigns because that's confusing too, or changing or something. So does that kind of make sense? Is that a good framework? Like we're a team and we're just going to execute a certain amount of activities together. Is that kind of like a good framework to think about it?
It is because I think because, well, first of all, thanks for addressing the elephant in the room and saying that there's a disconnect between the names and how we operate, because I think that's getting potentially a little confusing. When we talk about things like GitHub takeout, like if we're doing a platform GitHub takeout, do we avoid the CI/CD showdown and talk about the benefits of the platform when we're doing that? So that's really helpful. I think that also helps too when it comes to how we would assign ourselves to these things, because KubeCon is like a good example. Like if I'm the GitOps team, I'd look at KubeCon and be like, well, that seems like it might make sense for you, but AWS might be too broad. So I still think that those three events might not necessarily, they might not all be equal, and that we might have, our sponsorship level might be different. So we might have different demands. I could see two teams maybe wanting to be part of something if we really need the output and we have other things going on.
Yeah, just case in point, AWS is the biggest event of the year. Like whoever picks that up, there's more stuff to do than with other events. But they're all a big lift. And I think it would make a lot of sense, say, Samia, with the area of things that you work in, if your team picked up KubeCon, but not necessarily. I mean, there's a lot of things in cloud native that have to do with security. Cindy wrote a whole book on cloud native security. Like Cindy, your team could totally pick up KubeCon. Like Brian, anyone on the team could totally pick up KubeCon. I don't know that it's constrained like that. And to your point, Cormac, we should make the choices that are best for the business, right? Like you should not look at like, okay, here's a campaign we're working with, or here's a sales play, or here's an event we're supporting. And I'm going to constrain my set of activities because of a name that somebody picked, right? That's like the worst possible reason to do something. Like you should be thinking like, what's the thing we need to do for the business? What's the talent that we have around us? What are the skill set? What's the knowledge base? And what does the business need? Like that should be our decision matrix, in my opinion. So the proposal here, and so it would be another issue. So just like I have this field marketing issue where we're going to pick up things, there would be like a corporate events issue. And it would say, these are the corporate events in Q2. And I can derive that because I have the list of all the events, I think. And then the ask would be for you to go to your GTM teams and say, we need to make sure all the events are covered this quarter. So if there's 4, that means one team needs to pick up 2, right? And then if you're the team for that event support, then the whole team is on deck to do all the things to run the campaigns for that event, you know, the pre-campaigns to get people to go to it, the follow-up, all that kind of stuff.
Does it have to be a single GTM team? A particular event could, the topic of a particular event could span multiple GTM teams, and we could have potentially 2 GTM teams working on the same event. For example, like AWS, if it's a big event, we could have 2 GTM teams working on it. And maybe sharing the responsibilities of campaigns and so on as well. Because I think it becomes very difficult to draw a line and say that this is only in this particular GTM motion, especially if we are saying that at the end of the day, the metric that we are going to be tracking is, you know, the number of leads and, you know, the number of ARR and so on for a particular GTM team. Then you may have multiple GTM teams wanting to vie for a particular event.
Right.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Your teams, so some of the feedback from the events team is we're struggling to get support. We're asking for support and we're not getting it. Not necessarily from this team. I've really asked, okay, like, is it this team? Not necessarily from this team, but they don't have everything they need. And so teams, the GTM team should be fighting, like everyone should be saying, I want that event, because these events are high. They're like generate a ton of leads and a ton of pipeline. And like all of that, those metrics get attributed to your team. So when you look at like the success of your team, if you are the team that's supporting an event, you get to count that event's success. And so, Samia, yeah, maybe I would say reInvent is not this quarter. So this quarter, let's try the framework of 1 GTM team per corporate event and kind of see how that goes and what the workload is. But as you're thinking about as a GTM team, what's the stuff I need to do this quarter? I need to get out of sales play. I need to do some stuff with campaigns, and I need to support corporate events. There might be something else there, but I think those are the big ones. Cool. Then look for that issue as well. I think that needs kind of like probably a dedicated issue. Hey, GTM teams, who will pick up which event? The next one then is sales plays. I think that one we can do quickly. There was a due date where there was an ask last week. I don't know that it was super explicit, or I don't know if I asked everyone on the team, can you commit to this due date? But the due date was Friday. So now I will ask, is there anybody who, so the ask would be today, can you put in your proposed sales play and the proposed delivery date? Not the date when you can run any campaigns around that sales play, but just like, when can you deliver the document? When do you think you could have a usable document? Is there anybody who thinks they could not put in that proposal today?
I don't understand the process. So are we proposing what we think it should be and then it gets vetted and agreed with sales? Or
Exactly.
Or are we having that conversation with sales and you want the vetted answer?
So that's a great question, Cindy, because I think it could go either way. I think if you've already talked to sales, which I expect you would have, I know Samia, And when we say sales, we mean everybody from the sales and the AEs to all the way up to McBee or whoever you need to talk to. My expectation would be that you have already been having some amount of conversation with sales, but this would be a formal proposal to specifically Pile and Onel. So last quarter there was, I think it worked out okay. It was mostly done in like phone calls. There was phone calls and there was notes from the phone calls. And if you wanted to understand what happened, you had to like go dig up all the Google Docs. So this is trying to kind of like short circuit that and say, okay, here's one issue and these are the proposed plays and we're going to get explicit approval from Pile and Onel to go forth. And if they think, no, don't go forth on those, or no, those are not good dates, then we can have that conversation. It's documented. So that's the idea is that like, yes, you'd be talking to sales, but this is the documented official place. Does that kind of sound like a good plan, Cindy?
Yeah, it sounds like a great plan. I guess I must have been asleep at the wheel and not realizing that that was what you were asking for. So I could give you my opinion for today. And I know Parker there were conversations in the CICD Slack channel among us and the marketing team about what they might be, but I don't think anybody's vetted them with sales yet.
Gotcha. And you were not asleep at the wheel. You got like a ton of last minute heavy hitting projects put on your plate. And then you were out of pocket. And I did talk explicitly to Parker, and Parker did tell me, well, Cindy's out for this, and then I'm out for this. So my expectation is that you would get input from whoever you need to get input, but that you are the DRI. And so if you don't feel like I have enough input to make that call today, which it sounds like Cindy, you probably don't because you want to collaborate with Parker. When do you
sales? Yeah, we need to collaborate with sales.
Gotcha. When do you think would be a reasonable date that you could give a proposal to Pile and Onel?
Wednesday or Thursday, but I mean, yeah, Wednesday or Thursday.
Okay. Is there anybody else who needs extra time, or could you put a proposal in today?
So,
Sorry, go ahead.
no, please go ahead.
Yeah, so with GitOps, I think we discussed this last time as well. I don't believe that we need to have another play specifically with GitOps. One play should be sufficient. So I'm happy to work on some other play if there are priority plays, and we can work with this particular GTM team on those plays as well, right? So that's what I would propose, because from what I'm seeing, what I'm hearing from SDR managers that I'm talking to, and with the sales I'm talking to, a single play on GitOps, which kind of covers IAC and so GitOps and the whole infrastructure automation concept, should be sufficient. It should not. Anything more might be overloading them with additional plays.
I completely agree. You and I have chatted about this a lot, Sami. You and I 100%. I think I've mentioned everyone individually on the call, but I'll say it here. And I want to try to document this. I've got a big backlog to document. But I asked Pyle, how many plays do you think there should be total? And he said like 9. And I asked Onel, how many plays should there be total? And he said like 4. And I asked, Somers, how many, like if we eventually have a bookshelf, how many plays should there be to pick from? And Somers was like less than 10. So at some point, yeah, we're just this should be the sales plays that we run, and we update them, we keep them fresh, but we're not just adding to the library. So I agree on GitOps. Sami, did you already do the enablement on GitOps?
No, so that's planned end of this month, week of May 24th.
Okay, if you could do me a favor, do this. Let's consider that this quarter's sales play then. Okay. And then for next quarter, I don't even understand who made this commitment of like the GTM teams are going to deliver a sale, like each team is going to deliver a sales play each quarter. I was never asked for that commitment. So I'm just running with it for Q2 because that's what I was told. But for Q3, let's reevaluate that. So I'm kind of trying to dig into this to figure out, and this is Somers has asked for this. Somers said, what's the total number of plays that we want? Let's prioritize them. So Samuel, let's consider your GitOps play, the one for this quarter, if you could put that in the issue. And then Cormac and Brian, how much time would you need to be able to have your proposal to Pyle and Onell?
So we have the proposal in there already, but we just don't have the dates. So that was, I mean,
if I pinned you down and said, what's your best guess at a reasonable date that you would have like 80, 90% confidence I could deliver something usable by that date?
Well, let me ask a clarifying question on that. When you say deliver the sales play, do you mean just the play itself, or do you mean all the campaign stuff around the play?
Just the play itself. So,
And is the finish line the enablement session? Like, is that it's done now, or what's the
so the
finish
order,
line exactly?
the order of operations, and I try to outline this in the issue or in that epic. These are great questions, and candidly, this has been very confusing. I think these are all super reasonable questions, and we sorted all of this out in one of those like 20 MRs that we did. It's like, if this is not clear, I think it's reasonable. So the order of operations, this is in the handbook somewhere now. The idea would be you propose your play, and all you're saying is, this is the date I can have the handbook page. And not that it's even like a completed, finished handbook, because nothing at GitLab's ever finished. Everything's in draft, right? But this would be a usable, is what I would call it, usable. A salesperson could take that page and run that play, and it would be usable.
Can you clarify that here in this so that Summers and anybody else that's looking at this understands, everybody's at the same common understanding for what it means to be finished or delivered?
Usable, nothing, what we call this?
Usable what? Usable web page?
This is a great question. Usable handbook page. So everything at GitLab is in draft. We'll always update, iterate. It's never finished, but we want to see something. We want to see a handbook page delivered that is usable by sales by the due date. And let's think offline and refine this if it needs to be more clear. But the idea is this is like the date you can merge to the handbook, and okay, handbook page is live. And then based on this date of when you can have your handbook page, then this is on Somers and team. So it's up to them to then decide when do they want to schedule the enablement. And it might be like the day after, in which case like there's high pressure for you to get your thing delivered on time. And it could be like a month after. It just like, this is like when you can deliver a usable handbook page, at which the assumption then being any point after that, Somers could schedule an enablement.
Okay, and just one more stupid question. Remind me what Q2 is, what months?
So it's this month. It's May, June, and July.
Thank you.
That's a great question. That's not a dumb question, but they're awkward because January is last year.
I always
So-
forget. I know it's one way or the other, and I can never remember which one.
I count on my fingers like I'm like February, March, April. Okay, May, it's Q2. Cool. So the idea would be like you say the date you can deliver, and then Somers comes along and says, this is when I can enable. And then Pyle and Onell say, thumbs up, we approve that. And if they don't, there's a means by which we can have a conversation. Again, ideally, this would have already happened, but I feel like this is better than what we had last quarter. So we're making progress.
So what's the date? So the GitOps one is May.
Right. So essentially we could say GitOps, like GitOps could be like GitOps, the play would be like GitOps. And then the date would be like, done. And,
Well, Sami's got Sami had the date. Why not put a real
The
date?
week
in?
No,
of May
'cause here-
24th.
Here you put GitOps, and here you put 05-24. So the
Well,
enablement
no, I think that the top needs a date too. It's
is
not done, is it?
is it done?
No,
Sonia?
it's still work in progress.
Okay, so so put a date here, XX. So yeah, so put whatever date you think you can deliver that by. Would you be able to put that in today?
Yeah.
Okay,
I can do that.
cool. And then Somers already has this scheduled. So when y'all get your dates in here, then he will then go and, or his team will schedule here, and then we'll ask for approval.
One more thing on the dates. Samya, if you're release manager for May and you're doing this on the 24th, I highly recommend swapping with someone. It just about killed me to have a release for this and the release post at the same time.
I think the release, well, thanks for letting me know, Cindy. I think the release post is the week before. I think the Saturday before the week of the sales enablement. And the enablement is, I think, on Thursday. So I will have about 4 days. So I'm guessing I should be okay. But we'll see.
Think about it, Samyan. If you do decide you want to swap, just let us know as soon as you decide that. And
Yeah.
if not, we'll consider you on deck for it. And
Yeah.
so Cormac and Brian, when do you think you could add your proposed play and the date you think you could reasonably, you're like 90% confident you'll have a handbook page up?
We're slacking about that now, so I think we can have it done within 10, 15 minutes at the end of this call.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Then,
I'm the holdout. Sorry.
and no, you're good. I think we're way ahead of the game. I think last quarter we didn't have this at all, and you know, you had a lot of last minute stuff last week, a lot of heavy hitting. If y'all didn't see Cindy's blog post, she put out a pretty significant blog post last week. I tweeted it, but you should share it as well. It's a really great
Start to
post.
finish in 24 hours or less.
It's a lot. If you look at that post, there's a lot of content. There was like, how many different people around the org do you know? How many people contributed to that?
I pinged there were probably 6 or 8 different, because I had to get AR approval, had to get Jonathan Hunt's. It was, and so this was something Sid wanted. Sid, and thank you, William, for pointing out that Todd really wanted it published that day. So I was on vacation Monday, Tuesday, come back Wednesday and see that Todd had signed me up for doing this thing, and William clued me in that, oh, Annie wants it like tonight.
And you got it done. So I'm, from my perspective, I think we're firing on all cylinders. We got out a great blog post as a team. You did, and then like we just get to like bask in the glow of that success as a team. But in terms of you and Parker, I think it's completely reasonable to say by Thursday, you and Parker will have a proposal in there, and that's completely reasonable.
What day is he coming back?
I think he put it in our notes, right?
He
Or
did,
he
yeah.
put it in the other.
He's got, so I have him out today and tomorrow is what I'm showing on the calendar.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, so Thursday is reasonable.
cool. Then, can you leave a comment on the Epic to just say like, Parker's out of pocket, but we'll have our proposal in by Thursday?
Yep.
Cool. Moving right along, we did sales plays, really good discussion there. Corporate events, field events. I don't know that I'm gonna have time to get through all of this stuff. So I had a really awesome call with Anoop, Melissa, Farnoosh. I think Emily Kyle was on the call as well. And normally I'm not a huge fan of this, like we went and had this tiny little call and then we're gonna go tell the team. But in this case, I think it was helpful because we kind of just did some bigger dreaming about how marketing and product collaborate. And so out of that, we realized like there's bigger surface area, and for this team in particular, I think that you and all of us, we already coordinate with product a lot, but something that the PMs may not have top of mind is that when corporate events are coming up. So we talked about a lot of things, but one proposal was, okay, here's these Q2 events, the ones that your GTM teams are going to pick up, right? If we tell our product managers, hey, events are a time where you could promote capabilities. And you may want to adjust your roadmap so that something ships before the event. I've done this in the past. When I was working with Orit, she shipped our first AWS container with the command line of the container, and that capability she moved up in the roadmap, and we shipped it before reInvent. So that's just kind of one opportunity, is just to have a conversation with your PMs and clue them into the, hey, these events are coming up. That's one area. I'll talk about that on the product call as well. It's just like, hey, this is one way that we can have more collaboration between product and marketing. And then with the product marketing team being the focal point of that collaboration. We don't have a ton of time to discuss, but any just thoughts or questions on that kind of collaboration?
That's fine. Is that related to the tool? I haven't clicked on that one.
Oh, and then also, yes, then during that conversation, Farnoosh had like these two tools. I know that like Brian, you've already been using some of them. She asked for feedback on them. And so what number is that? Number 6. So I logged an issue. I pinged everybody in the issue. If you would please, take some reasonable amount of time, if that's 15 minutes, if that's an hour, play with the tools, and then think about how would I use these, and then just provide that feedback to Farnoosh. Would you all be able to do that this week?
I think I've already provided feedback on that.
Done. Already done. Cool. That also came out of that conversation, was that Farnoosh said, hey, I've got these two tools. Can we get feedback? Cool. So technically the call is over, and so I'm happy to end the call.
Really quickly, and I didn't want to interrupt you when you were kind of flowing. Back to your Q2 plan, at the beginning, you have a section about tools. I actually have a document where I've already started kind of outlining kind of what the plan is for upgrading DevOps tools. I was planning on sharing it on our next call, which I think I moved to Thursday, I think. But some of we may have to tweak a little bit of either what I have in the document or what you have. Like, for example, I don't see the screen in front of me, but I think you had identified 10 features or something. In the document I had 5 per category, but we can do 10. Whatever you guys think is best. So
I would say, Lita, you are the DRI, and my ask to you would be, can you make an explicit ask to this team? Okay. So the same way I've asked field marketing, can you just define what do you want the team to do for the quarter? And we'll tell you if we can do it or not. I asked the same thing of corporate marketing. And then Alita, even though you're on the team, I would say to your teammates, can you just say, PMM, this is what I'm asking of you this quarter. Can you commit to doing this?
Right. Okay. Yeah.
And whatever you.
I have that all laid out in a document. I just need to create a spreadsheet for each competitor, and then I can share that in that issue that you have. Yeah.
I added an item to our notes doc for this meeting for that. Mm-hmm. If you can link to whatever it is we're talking about there, that would be great.
Okay.
Which number are we on?
Well, I added item 11 for Alita.
Oh, yeah. For updating DevOps tools, CDoc.
Okay. I have to find it.
Or issue or whatever it is.
Yeah, and I would say if you could just summarize the ask, Alita, like, I want you to commit team to doing A, B, and C. And if you can put that in the Q2 goals issue, whatever your ask is, that's what we'll see if we can commit to.
I am on mute. So yes, I will add it.
Cool. Then I asked for some feedback, and several of you gave me really awesome feedback. I was so freaking happy. So I know I asked everybody, and it's anonymous, so I don't know who gave me the feedback, but man, y'all give some really, really good feedback that I like super appreciated. And if anybody else has any other feedback, the link is, I think it's like #1 from last week. But one of the things that popped up was, hey, we are the product marketing team, but whenever a new partner marketing manager gets hired that reports into Dunk, the team member updates channel says new product marketing manager. And that's a little bit confusing. And candidly, that feedback form is not the only place I've heard that. I've gotten a bunch of Slacks about that. So hopefully in 60 seconds, I can clarify just a slight bit of that. And if there's more questions, let's talk about it more. Feel free to ping me. So there is a difference between the name of teams and how somebody's job is defined in Bamboo HR, our HR system, right? And so in Bamboo HR, we have job families, and the job family does not necessarily relate to the team that you're on, if that makes sense. And your specific role could be defined as any number of different job families. And so partner marketing and alliances marketing is actually defined in Bamboo HR as a product marketing role. And so that's why when the people ops group makes a new announcement and says, this person is hired as a senior product marketing manager, and you're like, well, that's their title, but they're not on the team. Well, that's not really their title. Their real title is like, you know, senior alliances marketing manager, something like that. But it's just defined in the system as product marketing. And there's a lot of reasons to do that. You know, that takes probably more than 60 seconds to go into like why you would define one role, but like you can kind of imagine if you created like unique job families for every single role in the company, you might have too many of them. So it kind of makes sense to consolidate. That's one of the reasons. Any just clarifying questions on that, or any just other questions on that? It's a really good point to bring up.